you ever asked yourself why Africa, the world's youngest continent, is led by some of the oldest presidents? Half of Africa's 1.4 billion people haven't even turned 20. Yet the people making the decisions are often in their 70s, 80s, even 90s. Take Cameroon. Paul Biya, 92 years old, has been in power for more than 4 decades. In light of the 2025 election, one question keeps coming up. Can a nation this young keep being ruled by someone this old? And what does that say about power, democracy, and Africa's future? Back on October 22nd, 2025, a nation of 30 million people reached its breaking point. The streets turned into battlegrounds filled with tear gas and arrests. Protesters faced military tribunals for one demand: that a 92-year-old leader in power since 1982 finally steps aside. But wait, it gets crazier. 3 days ago, the Electoral Commission announced he won with 53.66% of the vote, but the official results haven't even been certified yet, and the opposition has proved he actually lost by 500,000 votes. Hello and welcome. This is Africa Insights with Hikma, and what you're about to see shows how a system that's been holding Africa back for decades is finally being challenged. By the end of this video, you will see how leaders manage to cling to power and why this moment in Cameroon could be different. Now, Cameroon is about to show us what happens when people finally have enough. But to understand what's happening right now, we need to talk about who Paul Biya really is. Paul Biya became president of Cameroon on November 6, 1982. Think about that date, 1982. Now, this is where it all starts to make you question everything. Paul Biya is known to be the ghost president. He spends most of his time in Europe, specifically Switzerland. A 2018 investigation found that Biya had spent 1,645 days in Switzerland since taking power. That's nearly 4.5 years living in Swiss luxury. And this is while his people suffer. 4 in 10 Cameroonians live below the poverty line. The roads are crumbling, healthcare is a nightmare. The average Cameroonian cannot even afford basic medical care. In 2008, Paul Biya changed the constitution. He removed term limits. That single move allowed him to run for president indefinitely, forever. And now in 2025, at 92 years old, an age where most people can barely walk without assistance, Paul Biya decided to run for an 8th term, but this time something was different. This time, one of his own turned against him. Issa Tchiroma, 75 years old, former railway engineer, and he worked for Paul Biya for 20 years. Tchiroma was Biya's spokesperson. He stood at podiums and defended Biya's policies. And in June 2025, he resigned and joined the opposition. This is like if your lawyer suddenly became the prosecutor. Since things are changing, Cameroonians started listening. The energy was different. People were hopeful, and for the first time in decades, it felt like change might actually be possible. October 12th, 2025, that's the election day. 48 hours later, Tchiroma went on social media and declared himself the winner. Not the government, not the Electoral Commission, him. He released his own vote count, 1.2 million votes for him and 700,000 for Biya. He won by over 500,000 votes. The real results? Tchiroma 60%, Biya 40%. He even called on Paul Biya to concede defeat.
From the polling station and verifying the representation on the ground, it is obvious that we have secured a landslide victory surpassing 50% of the ballot cast. Such rejection and disavowal demand courage and humility from the outgoing president. In the name of democracy and custom, he must call the winner, congratulate them, and offer to organize a smooth transition. This would protect our nation from upheavals and convulsion that could result from an imposed and unprepared transition. By doing so, the whole of humanity would recognize him as a man of peace, concerned with leaving a legacy that would be cited as an example to future generations.
Can you imagine, after 43 years in power, someone finally had the gut to say, "You lost, step down"? Remember Maurice Kamto? He was supposed to be the main opposition candidate in this election. So, what happened? Maurice Kamto's 2018 election challenge led to his arrest and the imprisonment of numerous supporters. In the 2025 election, he was barred from running due to technicalities, with his appeal rejected by the Constitutional Council. This has sparked significant controversy and raised questions about the credibility of the electoral process. Before the election, Biya's Minister of Territorial Administration made an announcement. Any unauthorized release of election results will be deemed high treason. Only the Constitutional Council can declare a winner. High treason. That means death penalty or life in prison. On October 22nd, the National Vote Counting Commission announced the official results. Paul Biya 53.66% and Issa Tchiroma 35.19%. Within hours, Cameroon explodes. Protesters erupt nationwide. Demonstrators fill the streets. They're holding signs, electoral fraud, stolen victory, 43 years is enough. These are not violent revolutionaries. These are just ordinary people who just want a chance at a better life. Security forces fire tear gas into crowds in Yaounde and Garoua at the Electoral Commission headquarters in Douala to protesters turn intense. People are demanding answers. The Interior Minister announces over 20 people arrested in Garoua alone. Now, people who wanted their votes to count are facing military justice. But here is what the government doesn't understand. This is 2025, not 1982, not even 2018. Information spreads instantly, videos go viral, the world is watching, and the youth are awakening. Let's talk about what 43 years of Paul Biya has actually cost Cameroon. While Biya lives in Switzerland, Cameroon is falling apart. Yes, Cameroon's GDP has been growing since 2023. On paper, things look okay, but unemployment is soaring, commodity prices are falling, poverty is rising, the cost of living is crushing ordinary families. Cameroon is fighting two wars simultaneously, by the way. War number one, in the Western English-speaking regions, separatists are fighting for independence. They claim they have been marginalized by the French-speaking majority. War number two, in the north, Boko Haram spills over from Nigeria. Armed militants attack border towns. Civilians are caught in the crossfire. And where is Paul Biya during all this? What's happening in Yaounde right now is the same script playing out across an entire continent. Kenya erupted in Gen Z-led protests this year. Zimbabwe's youth are demanding change. From Togo to Madagascar to Morocco, Africa's young generation is saying enough is enough. This is a continental awakening. 1.4 billion people, most of them under 19 years old, and we're watching Cameroon right now to see if resistance is possible or if the old system always wins. Africa is the youngest continent with the fastest growing population. By 2050, Africa will have almost 2.5 billion people. If these young Africans grow up in dictatorships with no opportunity, what happens? Migration, instability, extremism, economic collapse. But if they grow up in functioning democracies with real opportunity, Africa becomes the engine of global growth. We are living through the early stages of a global generational war, not just in Africa, everywhere. Young people looking at a world run by people who won't be alive, to face the consequences of climate change, housing crises, economic collapse, broken systems, and a lot more. And every time an aging leader in one country holds on to power for a long time, it sends a signal to aging leaders everywhere. This still works, but every time young people successfully fight back, well, that's a different signal. We can win. The future of the 21st century is being decided right now on Africa's streets. Now, Cameroon, the Constitutional Council will announce the official results by October 26 or 27. But I think now the system is exposed. The fraud is documented. The people have seen through the lies. Issa Tchiroma has warned any outcome other than his victory could plunge the country into chaos. And he is right, somehow, because Cameroon's youth are not going back to normal. Paul Biya is 92 years old. If he serves this full term, he will be 99. The question is not if Biya's rule ends, it's when and what comes after. Will Cameroon get real democracy? We don't have those answers, but right now in Yaounde, in Garoua, in Douala, in cities of Cameroon, young Cameroonians are risking everything for a chance at something better. And that's it for today's video. Don't forget to subscribe and comment below. What do you think happens next? Will Cameroon's youth break through, or will the system hold?